What is the most triggering thing that my kids do? The thing that really sets my nerves on edge, gets me grating my teeth, and makes me super mad? The thing that grinds on me? It's being disrespectful. When they sound entitled and bratty, when they roll their eyes, when they're sarcastic, when they slam doors or walk out in the middle of conversations, when they talk back to me in rude ways, I find that really triggering. And the thing is that mainstream parenting seems to have a little bit just lifted up their hands at this issue and said, we've got nothing. I've read hundreds, literally, of parenting books, and they have so much beautiful wisdom to them. But the problem with the movements like conscious, gentle, respectful parenting is that as beautiful as they are, they simply don't give us tools of what to do when our child doesn't mirror back everything that we're modeling to them. See, you can model respect to your child all day long, but there are still going to be those cases when a parent is mature and calm and kind and talking in a respectful way, and the child slams that back in their face, just throws it all back at them. When the child is rude, obnoxious, entitled, and really disrespectful to that oh so respectful parent. And then what do we do? See, I don't know about you, but I feel a real mission, a real sense of urgency to raise kids who are respectful, to build a society that is respectful, to teach my kids that there are certain red lines that we don't cross in a conversation. And I don't know what to do when the road of modeling comes to an end and then there's still disrespect happening. How do we actually teach our children to be respectful to us? That's what I'm going to explore in today's video. Hi, welcome back. I'm Avital. This is hifam, and we are here on a mission to help you to build a strong family culture, to raise your children with the values that you really believe in and stand behind, to build a home that is strong and stable and built on lasting bonds and meaningful values. I want to help you to love parenting, to feel that you're empowered, confident, that you know what you're doing, that you're not just being swept up by the trends, and that you're not just giving up on yourself or on your children, because I believe that family is the most important project of our lifetime, that raising kids is a privilege and a mission, that we need all the help we can get, the tools, the skills, the practice, the inspiration to do it well, to feel like we are mastering this. Now, I can't promise you any particular outcomes with your particular children, but I can promise you in-depth, meaningful conversations, honest guidance, evidence-based ideas, and mindset shifts that are going to completely change the way that you look at yourself as the CEO and founder of your family, as a leader, as someone who is building not only your family culture, but culture at large. And I think, that's an incredible job. That's an important job. And I salute you and I join you. As a mother of 5, I'm on this journey myself. And one of the things that I want to help us to break down is, who do we have to be in order to do that well? What kind of persona do we have to embody? How do we have to grow ourselves, develop our skills, and address and reframe our mindsets so that we can raise our kids and usher in a fantastic future for them? So first, I'm going to steel man let's call it the gentle parenting movement's argument with number 1, which I'm going to stay with them here, is respect your child. I agree. I think modeling is a huge part of parenting. And I think if we're disrespectful, if we're dismissive, if we are corrosive to the relationship, if we talk down to them, if we snub them, if we insult them, if we're rude, if we walk out in the middle of a conversation, if we raise our voice, if we call names, if we shame and blame and guilt them all the time, then they're probably going to copy those behaviors. That's the atmosphere we're creating in our home. That's the rules that we're setting. This is how it's done. This is how adults discuss things and talk to people that they love. And obviously, our children are going to copy that. We're all kind of monkey see, monkey do people. We have mirror neurons in our brains, and our children are emulating us every step of the way. So it's true that if you are disrespectful, that's going to be something that your child learns really quickly. So learning to moderate your language, to manage yourself, and I'm going to talk more about this in the last point. It's a really tough one, but it's an important point for you to master if you want to be a great leader for your kid and really command the respect. But yes, the first thing is to be respectful to our kids. And what that means is that we're going to be mindful and be intentional and deliberate about the way that we speak to them. Now, not robotic, not super scripted, not unnatural. You're allowed to feel frustration and anger and disappointment in them. You are allowed to tell them that they are to blame or guilty or should feel ashamed about certain things. All of that is fine, in my opinion, but the way that we do that needs to be through a respectful discourse. We need to hold ourselves to a standard, that we're not using curse words, that we're not using insults, that we're not mimicking or using sarcasm, that we're not rolling our eyes or turning our backs or walking away, that we're not putting them down as people, as individuals, but rather specifically critiquing the behaviors and the choices that they've made, that we're treating them with respect. The trouble is that I feel that the mainstream parenting movement kind of stops there, and they don't actually give us the tools to continue from there, because that's often simply not going to be enough. But here at hifam, we're going to continue. We're going to drill down deeper into what actually creates respect from our children. And it's actually quite a long and hard and tenuous road to go down, because you do really need to work at it. But before I reveal step number 2, let's talk about why it's so important. Why would we want our children to respect us? Well, I want to remind you that you, as the parent, are basically a proxy, a practicing ground for society at large. Whatever you teach your children, how they should treat you, how they should show up to their day, how they should treat your home, your time, your money, that's what they're learning about the world at large. This is where they grow up and where they actually practice all the skills and develop all of the mindsets and all of the belief systems that are going to set them up for their life. And so if you allow them to disrespect you, to walk all over you, to really treat you badly, then they're learning that that's acceptable, that that is how people treat each other. I treated my mom that way and nothing happened, right? And so we actually owe it to society, to their future girlfriends and boyfriends and bosses and colleagues, to everyone, to teach our children to be respectful. And we owe it to them, because people who know how to be respectful to others get on pretty well in life. You know, people want to mentor them. People want to marry them. People want to hire them. People want to be in their company because they're pleasant to be around. They're going to get further with these skills. So it's a win-win. We're going to win right now in childhood, raising kids who know how to be respectful, because it's much less stressful to raise respectful children. It's much less embarrassing. It's much more rewarding and pleasant for us as parents. But then they're going to win in the future as they gain traction in the projects and opportunities that arise in their lives. And society is going to win, because we all want respectful people around us. Respectful people, by the way, doesn't mean pushovers, doesn't mean that they don't know how to set boundaries, and doesn't mean that they don't know how to speak truth to power or to stand up to negative authority. So this is a really important point. And if you're multitasking, come back to me, because I want you to really tattoo this one on your forehead, okay? Many people feel like, well, I prefer my child is disrespectful to authority, because that at least means that they can stand up, that they can say no, right? That they're not going to be taken advantage of. But here's the thing. Our children must learn to differentiate between positive authority and negative authority. You and I probably share the fact that we want to raise children who would stand up to tyrannical powers, to intimidators and bullies, right? We would want them to be able to have the backbone to stand up to and to be disrespectful to people with bad influences, to people with bad ideas, to people who are behaving badly. However, that's not the same as being disrespectful to your teacher or to your parents, provided your teacher and your parents want the best for you and are treating you well. If you are treating your children well, but you are allowing them to treat you badly because you want them to be able to stand up to authority, you're missing a really key differentiator. I want to teach my children that they can be disrespectful and they can break the rules when those rules are bad rules, are evil rules, right? They can disrespect evil authorities. If someone's telling them to do something that is wrong, they should stand up to them. However, they should respect positive authorities. They should respect authorities that are trying to protect them, are trying to take care of them, are trying to usher in education and well-being and health, etc. Like their parents, like their teachers, like the police. These are authorities that they need to respect and listen to, because that is how society is civilized and ordered. So yes to rebellion against evil, bad things, but no to rebellion against good things. This is something that is, of course, going to be nuanced and different depending on your culture where you live, right? This is something that might be different from one country or one neighborhood to the next. What is defined as a good authority or as a bad authority in your particular life? That's something that you need to define as a parent in accordance to your values. And if you need help in figuring out those values and how to portray them to your children, then make sure that you check out The Studio. The Studio is my membership with thousands of members from around the world, where we all come together to learn the leadership skills to build a great family culture, to raise children who do know the difference between right and wrong and who have a really stable, strong family base from which they can go out into the world with confidence and clarity, and help you to raise your children with that conviction. So with that said and defined, we're now talking about teaching children to be respectful to positive authority figures. And I am absolutely going to assume that you are one of them. And I hope that you do the same. Because step number 2 is to respect yourself. So many mothers and fathers that I know don't respect themselves, don't hold themselves to high regard, don't treat themselves the way they might treat their neighbors, their colleagues, their friends, or even their kids. They seem to think that the more they dishevel themselves, put themselves down, deprecate themselves, and don't really stand up for what they believe in or their own boundaries, the kinder they are, the more compassionate they are, the more empathic they are, the better they are as people. And I think this is really far from the truth. I think people who don't have self-respect, who don't know how to say no, how to hold boundaries, how to treat themselves well with self-care, are likely to be trampled on by their children. Their children are likely to see them as weak, as incapable, as incompetent, and as someone that they disrespect. It doesn't command respect when you don't respect yourself. When you stand up straight, when you're clear in your communications, when you make your bed at the beginning of the day, when you put yourself together physically, when you take care of your body, and when you take care of your time, then you're projecting to your child and to everyone else that you are worthy of respect. But if you don't even respect yourself, how are other people ever going to muster up the energy it takes to respect you, especially your children? When they're used to seeing you eat crumbs off the floor, either metaphorically or literally, they are likely to think, well, I guess that's just how mom eats, and not think that you too are worthy of a proper sit-down meal. Sometimes self-respect comes in the form of really simple and superficial things, like getting dressed in the morning, like asking your child to wait while you're on a phone call, or like saying no when it's just one book too many and you need to get on with your evening. Protecting your time, your privacy, your sense of self, of being put together, your relationships, those things actually do command respect. People see that and they think, wow, I really respect that individual. They respect themselves. Number 3 is to become more commanding in your tone. State things clearly and with conviction. We're used to watering down our message a lot for our kids. That is the popular, trendy, cultural way of parenting these days, right? It's that conscious, respectful, gentle, etc. parenting atmosphere that's all about getting very wordy, explaining a lot, apologizing, softening, toning all of our messages down. And I think there's something to be said for that. I mean, I could steel man that argument and say that, yeah, when I want to talk respectfully to my kids, I do explain what I mean. I don't just say because I said so. I do offer them alternatives or choices from time to time. And I think that, in small quantities, in measured ways, those things are healthy in our parenting. However, you can go too far and get too wordy and too explanatory and too apologetic to the point where you're groveling, where you're bribing, where you're begging, where you're cajoling and negotiating on all of your requests. And that is something that's hard to respect. When someone is always softening and twisting themselves in pretzels to please their child and to word it and phrase it just so, and to be just ever so sensitive to anything that might be perceived as any kind of authority, then you're at the risk of losing your authority. You're not an authority in their life anymore if everything is up for negotiation. It's okay to negotiate here and there, to have a conversation about things, or to explain yourself when you feel in control, when it's a decision that you've made. Like, honey, I would like to discuss our screen time rules with you. I'm open to hearing ideas. We can negotiate this. I want to get to a win-win situation with you. Okay, that is tone of voice that does command respect, even though it's a negotiation. You're not begging, you're not cajoling, you're not backtracking, you're not twisting yourself up. What we also need to be able to do is to talk with conviction, with clarity, with confidence, and without room for negotiation. We parents today seem to have lost our ability to simply state the rule, to simply share what is going to happen, to simply say our expectations out loud, to be able to say, I expect you to be there on time. I want you to switch off right now. It's time for bed. Saying clear statements, sharing your house rules and expectations is something that's fallen out of fashion, that is unpopular because it kind of somewhere smells a little bit of authoritarianism. But it's not authoritarian. It's simply having authority. It's simply commanding respect. Commanding respect is a bit like being a commander, right? A commander who has authority over their unit doesn't constantly apologize and backtrack and justify and ah over what they want to say. They're clear. They share the direction. They are leaders. They have conviction. They've done all of the different thinking and debating and hesitating and doubts inside their head. And now they're coming out with a command. They are telling their child what to do. That is not authoritarian in a negative sense, but rather authoritative in a positive sense. Children also need to be able to follow commands. They need to be able to hear what you want them to do and what is going to happen, and then to follow through on those without asking for explanations, asking for adjustments, making negotiations and pleas and bargains. You do need to sometimes be able to say, we're doing this because I said so. Mainstream parenting today offers us different routes to communicating with our children, from requests to offering choices, to directing and redirecting, guidance and modeling. But what it leaves out is something really important, and that is commanding. Simply saying, you will do this now. Put the toys away. Go and tidy your room. Put your shoes on. Switch the TV off. Come and eat dinner. These are the types of things that are direct, that are honest and authentic. And yes, they command respect because we're being clear about what we're asking for. We're not setting up the conversation for pushback and negotiations. Now, in a different video, I'm going to break down the different styles of communicating and making requests and explain exactly the pros and cons of each and where they're going to be applicable. But because we're talking about commanding respect here, I want to bring back the ability to make simple commands. This is something that might make you feel a bit of the ick or a bit queasy or a bit like, oh, I could never do that, or ew, my child will hate me. But let me tell you something. Leaders who are comfortable with their authority command respect. When you're comfortable making clear, they're kind and respectful and polite commands, but they are commands, you will be respected by your child. The truth is that the more soft and gentle and loving and empathic and flexible and communicative and negotiating you are, you might be warm and fuzzy, but you won't be respected. Your child might feel chilled and safe with you, but they won't actually revere and respect you. And I think as a parent, we actually need both. In order to do right by our child, we need the warmth and the love and the coziness. But there are times, perhaps sparingly, but there are times when we need to be able to simply make commands. Those commands need to be fair, they need to be reasonable, they need to be age appropriate, they need to be spoken with a smile and with warmth, not with threats or ultimatums or punishments. But they are commands and they are spoken clearly, with conviction, with clarity, without apology and hesitation. The next point is to stop demanding respect and start commanding it in the way that you live your life. Demanding respect is a sign of weakness. Anyone who begs, please respect me, that's disrespectful, how are you being so disrespectful to me, immediately appears weak and a bit pathetic sometimes, or pitiful. It's like sad, and we don't feel just, inspired to respect this person, to really revere them and hold them in high regard. When someone's constantly whining, crying, whinging, upset, insulted and offended that their child doesn't respect them, they are encouraging yet more of that disrespect. The child feels yet more unimpressed by this whimpering adult, right? By this adult who can't simply stand up straight and command respect. Demanding respect is what happens when people beg for it, when people decry that they need it, when people admonish someone for not giving them respect, when people cancel and get angry and get loud and make a fuss over the disrespect. Commanding respect has a lot more of a quiet, gentle, kind of a gentle giant or a friendly giant kind of energy, right? It's the energy of someone who knows their own value, who knows they won't stand for disrespect, who can quietly and calmly go about their business and can correct for disrespect when it happens. It's kind of like how I've noticed that many little dogs bark and even bite a lot, right? They kind of, yeah, they're very loud and very energetic and very worked up and riled up, right? And maybe that's because they feel a bit insecure. Maybe that's because they don't actually have that much bite to their bark. They don't actually have that much capacity to inflict damage. And so they feel really weak and vulnerable. Whereas larger breeds of dogs are often quieter, are often calmer, are often less energetic, and need less to make a big show of their strength because they know that they're strong. They know that they have that bite, right? That power behind them. Now, that sounds a little violent when we're talking about bites and dogs, but it's kind of true for having authority and leadership in general. When you feel conviction, when you feel powerful, when you know that you do have authority, when you know that you can exercise it, when you know that you can enact consequences and teach lessons, then you feel a lot more calm in your position. You feel a lot more confidence. You don't need to make so much noise about it. And that's why you see a lot of parents who are very busy with negotiations and back and forths and bribery and begging and yelling and getting angry and all of the triggering behaviors is it's kind of a flapping around, a faffing around and getting flustered and flabbergasted because they feel really, really vulnerable. They feel really weak. They feel insecure. They feel ill-equipped. They don't know how to respond. And so they get, worked up very easily. And they're much more likely to get triggered and angry and yell. And again, these are behaviors that really are going to elicit a lot of disrespect. It can easily seem pathetic. And so that's why you want to command respect from within. That's why self-respect, right? Respecting yourself. That's why being really clear and speaking with conviction and getting comfortable making commands, right? That's why practicing being respectful to others, all of this is going to kind of create that energetic aura of, I know that I should be respected. And so I don't need to beg or cajole or demand or get mad for it. It simply is. It's embodying an energy. Now, with that said, I don't want to get stuck on the same kind of issues that I often see in parenting and just say, oh, just model it, just have the energy and it will all be fine. No, your kids still watch TV. Your kids are still children. Your kids still have underdeveloped prefrontal cortexes. Your kids might still be really rude and disrespectful. I know that mine are. They roll their eyes, they talk back, they're sarcastic, they walk out, they do all sorts of things that are rude. And here's the part where we actually enforce respectful behavior, where we actually do teach it. Okay, so that's actually step number one in enforcing it, is actually teaching our children what constitutes respectful behavior and what doesn't. And many of you might feel a bit fuzzy on that. Our culture has gone a little bit fuzzy on that. What is disrespectful? But I want you to really think with me now and define for yourself and define for your child what is disrespectful. What is chutzpah, as we call it here? What is rudeness, right? What is unacceptable in a conversation? What is a red line that you don't want your child to cross? And then you need to say that simply once with conviction, with clarity, in a commanding tone. That's disrespectful. I won't accept that type of rudeness from you. You're being rude. We're so not used to hearing people talk with such direction to their children, but that's what is necessary. When your child is disrespectful to you, you actually need to call them out for it and explain to them that, here, my child, watch, see, what you just did now, that's called disrespect. That's something that we never do to anyone, especially not our parents, especially not our elders, especially not figures of authority. So when your child talks back to you, mimics you, mocks you, talks in a sarcastic tone, makes light or makes jokes of what you're saying when you're being serious, turns a shoulder, walks away, slams a door, hangs up the phone, rolls their eyes. All of these behaviors, just refresher, reminder, constitute disrespect. And disrespect needs to be labeled and shown. that's disrespectful. Just like I hope you teach your child when they're making a spelling mistake, when they're eating something that destroys their body, when they're doing something that's dangerous. We correct them. We tell them that's dangerous. That's unhealthy. That's a mistake, right? That's what we're here for. We're here to guidepost and to help them and to teach them about the world and how the world works. Who's going to teach them if you're not? Who's going to tell them what's disrespectful if you're not? Who's going to tell them that those behaviors aren't acceptable in polite society, aren't the civilization that we're looking to build, aren't the culture that we're looking to uphold? So we won't accept it at home and it won't be accepted out there in the world. Okay, this is not what we're looking to build. So you're the one who has to teach them that. You're the one who has to be the proxy for society that tells them that's disrespectful. So that's the first thing that you're going to do, is to set the boundary calmly by simply telling them what constitutes disrespect. The second thing that you're going to do is you're going to have a consequence, a logical consequence for what happens when someone's disrespectful. I don't know about you, but for me, if someone's really disrespectful to me in a conversation, it might mean that the conversation is over until they can collect themselves and talk with respect. If someone's really being disrespectful to me, it might mean that I'm not in the mood to now do something fun with them or spend special time with them or reward them somehow. And again, this is one of the, in my view, big mistakes of mainstream parenting today that basically tells us to reward disrespectful behavior with yet more attention and special time. Oh, it just means that you haven't spent enough time with your kids. It means that they miss you. It means that you as a mother, you're probably just not doing good enough. You're not modeling enough respect. You're not investing in them enough. You haven't given them enough attention. Maybe snuggle up with them and read them a book. Maybe take them on a special outing. Maybe go with them to the park. Maybe get down on the floor and play with them. I don't know about you, but for me, that all just sounds like rewarding bad behavior. I want my children to know that I would love to spend time with them. I want to spend special time in puzzles and parks if they can be respectful. They need to collect themselves and hold themselves to a certain standard because I won't put up with abuse. I don't want to hang out with bullies. I don't want to hang out with people who are disrespectful, no matter how old they are. So yes, if my 6-year-old is being whiny and angry and violent or aggressive or disrespectful, I'm going to tell him, honey, I can't wait to hang out with you when you've calmed down and collected yourself. If my 13-year-old is slamming doors and making demands and rolling his eyes, I'm going to tell him, I'm afraid this conversation is over until you can talk to me respectfully. I'd love to discuss your plans for the summer, the class you want to take, your plans with your friends, something you want to buy. Happy to discuss all of that. I can't do it when you're being disrespectful. So they need to first address what is disrespectful and define it, and then have logical consequences that it is not rewarded. It is not encouraged. You do not gain what you want by being disrespectful. If you're disrespectful, in fact, the conversation is over. We can't discuss this anymore. You can't get it anymore. Screen time is over. Special pizza time is over. We're not going to the park because you were disrespectful. Disrespectful people don't get what they want. That's the message they need to hear. Now, can they overcome that? Of course. I always teach repair, and I'm happy to go into repair in a deep video for you. Let me know in the comments below if that's something that you want to hear more about. How do we repair? One of the key tools of parenting. But is there a logical consequence for disrespect? There is. It's that people don't want to hang out with you. It's that people don't want to do you favors. It's that people don't enjoy your company. It's that people get irritated and riled up and hurt and frustrated and just need some space from you. It's that people don't want to go out of their way to fulfill your dreams and fantasies and give you more attention. And wouldn't it be a good idea for our children to learn that natural and logical consequence of disrespect early? Like, wait, if you behave in a beastly fashion, if you treat the people around you with rudeness and disregard, then they're not going to be bending over backwards to treat you well. They're just going to be like taking some space from you and waiting for you to calm down and apologize. Okay, the next one is one of the hardest ones for us parents. I've made videos about this in the past. Happy to make some in the future. Drop me your questions below. But the next one is actually for us to master our triggers. One of the things that maybe makes people respect others the least is to watch them lose control, to watch them completely lose their sense of composure, to watch them just, explode. When you get triggered and you aren't able to remove yourself from this situation and calm yourself down and hold yourself to a certain standard, when you kind of blast through all your own red lines, when you're disrespectful to both yourself, the surroundings, the atmosphere, the physical environment, the people around you, then you make yourself an easy target for disrespect. It's really hard to have high regard and respect for someone who falls apart, for someone who's a mess, for someone whose emotionality always gets the better of them. It's one of the less respected qualities we can display. And so if you are constantly on an emotional roller coaster, if you're constantly at the whim of the news, of social media, of your friends, of your kids, if you're always on these ups and downs and you're just kind of being whipped around by circumstance and situation, then it's going to be hard for you to command respect. First of all, you don't have that grounded, centered backbone. You don't have the broad shoulders. You're not someone that we look up to and we want to emulate. But second of all, when I'm in that state, I myself can't set clear boundaries, can't be teaching my children about respect, can't be respectful towards them. And so I'm a mess. I'm unattractive. I'm uninspiring. I'm someone that's easy to simply disrespect, to see as kind of weak and pathetic and not worthy of looking up to and of treating with a certain boundary. And so for me, one of the biggest things I need to do in order to command respect from my children is to master my own triggers and to become less emotional. Now, that doesn't mean less feeling. You still feel feelings. I still feel happiness and sadness and grief and frustration and anger and anxiety and joy and all of these different feelings. The emotions might come through my body. I might really get emotional, but the trick is to learn not to emote, right? Not to actually act those out, not to actually get easily triggered into flight or fight mode where I am now out of control, not to behave crazy, right? Not to be a mess all the time. And I know that this is something that so many of us struggle with, whether it's hormonal roller coasters, whether it's getting thrown for a loop from hearing the news, whether it's something that our children said that hit us right here, whatever it is, there's an internal sense of emotional turmoil, of never just being okay, of never being solid, grounded, a rock. And that is something that we ourselves disrespect about ourselves. Like, I don't know about you, but when I've lost it, when I've done and said things that I'm ashamed of, I don't respect myself. And I don't respect myself. It just kind of becomes a vicious cycle. Then I'm going to stuff my face with chocolate. I'm going to stay up late scrolling, doomsday scrolling on Instagram. I'm going to, be disrespectful to my husband, to my work, to my time, to my body, to my kids. It becomes a vicious cycle. When I am overly emotional, hypersensitive, unable to control my own internal dialogue and mindset, then I think it's really hard for me to command respect and to do all the things that we've said here today. And so this point is a point about self-development and growth. It's exactly what we focus on inside my membership, The Studio. Go to hifam.com/studio and check it out. And there you'll learn how to become a leader, how to become more solid, more grounded, more calm, have more convictions and clarity about your values, about what you stand for, about how you want to run your home, how you want to build your life, your schedule, your routines, your rituals. All of the things that make you bonded, that make you enjoy the meaning of family life, like family meals, like family outings, time in nature, healthy habits, all that good stuff is stuff that comes from our ability to set the tone, to lead, to be the CEOs of our family. But if we're an emotional mess, if we're following mainstream ideas like follow your feelings never lie, let your feelings guide you, whatever you feel, let it out, express yourself, it's authentic, it's good, feel the rage, feel the anger, get angry. All of that bad advice leads us into a chaotic, messy state where we can't lead with clarity and we can't feel that we have any self-respect, let alone command respect from our children or from those around us. People who we look up to, and just ask yourself who it is that you look up to. People who we look up to usually overcome their chaotic, emotive, sensationalist, catastrophic internal dialogue. Okay, they overcome that. They master that. They have a spot of stoicism, right? They are able to button up. They are able to hold it together. They're able to cry, to feel their feelings, but then they put their big girl pants on and they get on with it. They take the next right step. They're not just stuck, right? They're not a puddle on the floor. Those are the people that we respect. And we might talk a big talk in society about expressing yourself and letting it all out and not holding it in and not, putting any boundaries on yourself. But the truth is that most of us don't find that very inspiring. Most of us don't want to be that way. And most of us feel a real hangover after we've behaved like that, after we've just let everything hang out, after we've been super vulnerable and expressive and authentic. But really, it was just about letting ourselves get triggered, get emotional, get swept away in all sorts of cognitive fallacies. And I think it's a pseudoscience to say that that is somehow cathartic or helpful or useful in building a family life and building a life that we are proud of living, that we feel joyful in, that we feel clarity and confidence about. So I'm a little bit on a mission to help you not to go down that path, but instead to rein it back, to master yourself. And when we master ourselves, we have self-respect. Our children can respect us more. Our surroundings can respect us more. And we don't feel those real, highs and lows, that roller coaster of shame and exposure and vulnerability and confusion that come with being overly emotional. So mastering your emotions is something that I teach inside my course, Alchemize. It's all about how to become unfendable, unvictimized, and really unshakable, even though the world out there is scary and offensive. And if that's something that interests you, it feels like, yeah, I need that kind of boost, I need that kind of strengthening, then I invite you to check it out. Let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see next from me. I've mentioned a few things here and I'm happy to make these videos for you. And meanwhile, make sure that you keep on living that hifam life. Press like and subscribe and share this with a friend who you think might find it interesting. We're on a mission to help you to build that strong family culture that really aligns with your values in an unapologetic way. And if that sounds good to you, make sure to stick around. See you next time.